You said you wanted affordable electric cars? Well, Dacia heard you. And blimey, has it provided. Welcome to the Dacia Spring, the new affordable electric car. And I mean properly affordable. This costs from under £15,000 in the UK. You've got an electric range of 140 miles from a 26.8 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate LFP battery. And I will talk more about that in just a minute. In the meantime, 15 grand for an electric car in the UK. How good is that? This, to be precise, is the Extreme model, which gets a bit more power, a whole hearty 64 brake horsepower for 0 to 62 in a blazing 13.7 seconds. So it is not fast, but that's not the point, is it? We're talking about a car that's meant for the city, so 3.7 metres long, so it's quite dinky. Talking about the same sizes, things like the Hyundai i10, Kia Picanto. This is meant to be a really affordable, straightforward, no-nonsense electric car for those people who want a straightforward, no-nonsense electric car at a low price. Brilliant. Our test car is the top spec Extreme, which costs a fiver under £17,000 and has optional stonewash blue paint for £650. But everything else you see is standard, including the bronze details, alloy wheels, and you even get a single windscreen wiper. Oh yes. So, here we go. Straightforward boot. It's got a boot. What more do you want for this kind of money? Actually, do you know what? It's not bad at all. 308 litres. So that's not that small by the standards of little city cars like this. It's even got a little bit of underfloor storage. No space saver or spare tyre, which is a bit of a shame. But nonetheless, I think that's pretty good. The rear seats, it's a single piece rear bench and that sort of folds down flat. Fine, that does the job too. Oh, listen to that boot shut. So, rear passenger space. Not a huge highlight with the Spring, but for a little car like this, I don't think anybody's really expecting it. So, as you can see, this is me sat behind myself. I'm a fairly average 5'7", so if you've got a tall driver, you're not going to really be able to get anybody in the back seats. But if you've just got some kids, then fine. You know, it's useful. It's useful space for short people or luggage, I suppose. It's all right. And also, look at these. Look at these door locks. It's like being in the 90s again. Love it. One of the main reasons you'd go for the higher spec Spring Extreme is the 10-inch touchscreen, which gets nav, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as a few other useful touches like the electrically controlled and heated side mirrors. If you do go for the lower spec Spring 45, you do without the touchscreen, but you do still get digital driver's readout, auto lights, rear parking sensors, air conditioning and even cruise control. So it will come as no surprise to you that even when you do go for the Extreme with its fancy touchscreen, it's still pretty basic in here. But do you know what? I really don't mind it. I actually quite like the variety of colours they've got with the little, you know, copper highlights and the white bits sort of lift things a bit. Does it feel cheap? Yeah, of course it does. Do I care? Not really, not at this price. No, I think it's fine. It feels pretty durable. And actually it's not kind of shouting, I'm cheap at you all the time. I think it's okay. I really think they've done a pretty good job of the interior. Even these little buttons down here. Normal, straightforward rotary controls for the heating down here and the aircon. Fan on, temperature up or down, job done. And also, it's quite clever, I suppose, that Dacia's got all of the controls for the car in this centre column here. So when they go from left to right-hand drive, obviously they don't have to change this. So it cuts costs, it's cheaper. Got a little gear shifter down here, a manual handbrake, look. Remember those? It's got that. Manually adjustable seats, it doesn't adjust for height. If you are a tall person, I think you might struggle with the driving position in this car. If you're a bit more of my height or lower, I think you'll be, or shorter I should say, I think you'll be fine. It's okay. Would I like a bit more lower back support? Yes. Am I surprised that I would like a bit more lower back support in a cheap car? No, I'm not, and that's fine. It just does the job. As for charging, the Spring will rapid charge at up to 30 kilowatts for a 20 to 80% charge in 45 minutes. So, not terribly quick, to be honest. However, you do get vehicle-to-load charging on the Extreme model so that you can charge other electric devices from the car's high-voltage battery, which is a really useful trick. Most Spring drivers will rely on a 7 kilowatt home or curbside charger, which will deliver a full battery in around about 5 to 6 hours, while a normal 3-pin domestic socket will do the same in around 12 to 13 hours. Right, I am going to start by talking to you about safety. Now, the Dacia Spring is based on a car actually called the Renault Kwid, an Indian market car. So it's a Renault platform, it's an old Renault platform, and it's been converted from, it's an ICE car, to be the Dacia Spring. This has actually been on sale, the Spring, as an electric car in mainland Europe for a few years already, but it's just been facelifted, particularly new interior and all of that stuff, which has prompted Dacia to bring it to the UK as well. The Spring, pre-facelift I would add, has got a Euro NCAP rating of 1 star. Yes. Now, I think that will understandably be a deal breaker for a lot of people. And if it is, that's absolutely fine, because there are some brilliant used EVs out there that you can get, or indeed petrol or diesel, whatever suits you, which will have better crash structure, they will have better safety systems and this kind of thing. A used Citroen EC4, a used Nissan Leaf, there's lots of options out there. Go for it, I totally get that. What is worth mentioning is that Euro NCAP has made its crash tests much more stringent over the more recent years, and especially in terms of the driver assistance systems. So one of the big things that obviously the Spring doesn't have is autonomous emergency braking. It does have lane keep assist. It does have a speed limit warning, because those are all mandated now anyway. So I think you really have to approach it as a case of what are you happy to deal with? Is that going to bother you? Are you going to worry about the safety standards and the lack of those driver assistance systems? And if so, absolutely understandable. There are lots of other options out there. What I would add as well, while we're still on safety, is that I do like, so you can set your own safety personal settings, safety perso as it's called. So you can have your lane keep assist and your speed limit off, and then you can activate that with this physical switch down here. So it's a double press, so you press it once and it goes, are you sure? And you press it again and it goes, excellent. So that's your personal safety settings activated, and then it's a one press of a decent sized physical button down there, little orange light so you know when it's off or on, to activate it again. So therefore you can have your speed limit and your lane keep assist on the motorway, and then whack it off when you're on country roads like these where maybe there'll just be more of a hindrance. I really, really like that. I think that that is an aspect of the Spring and of other Renault models that is just brilliant, and I wish other manufacturers would follow their lead, really. Talking of speed and motorway stuff particularly, the Spring has got a top speed of 78 miles an hour, and that is obviously with the heady heights of the 64 brake horsepower that we've got in our Spring 65 here. So let's face it, it's not a motorway mile commuter, is it? You can go on the motorway. Actually, it feels pretty stable, this car, it's all right. It's very lightweight, so the Spring weighs less than a tonne, which is brilliant for efficiency, perhaps not so much for big crosswinds coming off lorries and that kind of thing. So, but you know, for the occasional jaunt down the motorway, it'll do the job. More importantly is that around town, it actually feels pretty good. Up to 50 miles an hour, you know, it doesn't actually feel that slow. It's pretty decent. It gets off the line easily, the throttle response is pretty easy to modulate, everything just does the job. Is there a lot of wind noise? Yeah, it's quite a lot of wind noise. Do I care? No, not really. It's just what the car's about, isn't it? And actually it's kind of fun. It's very light steering, doesn't feel terribly direct or like really connected or anything. It's all a little bit remote. But like I said, it just does the job, and there is a sort of a refreshing wieldiness to it just because of that light weight. So in terms of the way it drives, it's comfortable enough. In fact, actually it's pretty decent. Again, because it's not got a huge amount of mass to it, it actually rides pretty well. It gets a bit bouncy, but I really don't mind it. I don't mind the way this drives. I think it's just fit for purpose. But I think for the price that you're paying, for the range that you're getting, I will make a brief mention of the battery technology. So as I said, this is lithium ion phosphate LFP battery. What that means is basically you don't need to think about it at all. In fact, LFP batteries are very common. MG uses them, Tesla uses them, BYD uses them. They are cobalt free, they use fewer rare earth metals than the more common lithium ion NMC batteries that you get in rivals like the Peugeot E208, electric Corsa, yeah, you know, most of those cars. But ultimately this will have just as good longevity, if not more, and actually it stands up better to being charged to 100% and all of that. So you don't really need to worry about it, but just know that it's very common battery technology. So there you have it. It's actually kind of fun to drive in a peculiar way, the Spring. I haven't tried the lower powered one that does 0 to 62 in 19 seconds. I might draw the line at that one. This one, it's all right. As for real-world range, the Spring's lightweight stature does pay off in that you'll easily see over 4 miles per kilowatt hour, even up towards 5 miles per kilowatt hour in warmer conditions. But we'd say that you should plan for a real-world range of around 100 miles in winter, while summer temperatures, especially in slower driving conditions, could see you get quite close to that claimed 140-mile figure. So should you buy a Dacia Spring? Well, in truth, it is quite a tricky proposition, because it's inevitably going to be a bit of a new versus used question, isn't it? Rather than there aren't really any direct new rivals. The closest to it is the Citroën EC3, which is just coming out in the UK now, and they are also doing a smaller LFP battery car, which is going to be sort of usefully under £20,000. So monthly prices, that might be quite close to the Spring. You know, that'll probably be, I reckon Citroën will get that down to about £200 per month on some decent deals, and that could actually start to steal some sales from the Spring. But other than that, it doesn't really have any direct competition that gets anywhere near this kind of price range. And I really like the fact that Dacia is doing this. You look at how well Dacia is doing in Europe, the Sandero is the best-selling car in Europe. End of. The demand for basic, affordable cars is undeniable, and I think the fact that Dacia is providing it with this as an electric car is fantastic. The safety aspect, I think, could be a deal breaker for a lot of people, and that might be what would sway me towards a used car instead of this as well, if I'm honest. But do you know what? I think as small, affordable, no-nonsense cars go, the Spring is really actually pretty good. And given that you can get it for £150, £160 a month with a very low deposit, well, I can see why you would. 3 years, 60,000 mile warranty, 8 years, 75,000 mile battery warranty. Can't really argue with it, can you? So if that's what you want, and you're not fussed about all the sort of niceties that you do get with some of the rivals that you'll get as a used car for a similar price, then go for it. Really, it comes down to what your priorities are. But I'm certainly glad that the Spring is out there and available for the sort of prices that it is. Don't forget to head to CarGurus.co.uk for a whole host of fantastic used cars, including some that are even cheaper than the Spring. And while we've got you, please do like the video, subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel, and turn your notifications on so that you don't miss any of our videos.